Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, he abandoned his child. It's Matt Freeman. Matt, how do you feel about this?
I'll get my pipeline. The pipeline. Pipeline.
This week on the show, I don't know how to build off that, Matt. I'm sorry. I just you keep muttering to yourself over there.
Pipeline.
This week on the show, our series Deconstructing the Films of Paul Thomas Anderson continues with the director's fifth feature film. We're talking about the Academy Award winning 2007 film, There Will Be Blood. This is the big one, Matt. This is the awards started paying attention to Paul Thomas Anderson, finally.
Yeah. I mean, I think people regarded him as an auteur prior to this, but it was only with this one where it was like, I think this is on a lot of, best movie of all time / best movie of the 21st century lists. So
yeah, for sure. Before we get into the movie though, Matt, I have something I want to talk to you about real quick.
Okay.
Isn't in the script. I'm surprising you. There's
an
an important thing happening this very weekend that I need to talk to you about because you, of course, as everyone knows, are the vice president and CFO of the Zack Snyder Fan Association.
Yes. Well, this is well-known information.
Yeah,
yes.
Everyone knows this. There's a new Superman movie coming out this weekend.
Yes, and we're all very upset.
Yeah. How do you feel about Superman going woke?
I mean, do you have to ask, Scott? Superman is supposed to kill people and laser them apart with his eyes.
Yeah.
And hold on, I'm getting a note from our producer. No, I'm not describing Homelander. I'm describing Superman.
Did you hear that they made this movie an immigrant story?
That's just Superman?
Yeah.
They made Superman.
Mm-hmm.
The story of an immigrant. This is what's
wrong with America.
This is what's wrong with America, is that we have to make everything about America.
I really, joking aside, I'm pretty excited for this movie. I think we'll probably end up doing an episode on it at some point. I don't know if it'll be next week or further away from that. I'm a big Superman fan, and I'm just really excited. And I just wanted to talk about it. I didn't have a reason. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I will try to see it.
I think it's interesting that I feel like this movie has so much on its shoulders, right? Like, I feel like this movie is like, there's so much expectation coming out of this movie. I've heard on another podcast that like Warner Brothers is like quietly saying like, if this thing bombs, we're fucked. And just like it's also supposed to kickstart this new DC cinematic universe thing that they're trying. It's also the first Superman film since the Man of Steel one, and so it's just like it feels like the expectations of this film are like through the roof of like what it has to achieve and what it has to do. And I am a little worried. Like I think it was encouraging seeing how well it has been received so far by critics. It's doing quite well actually. Because like the trailers did not do a good job selling this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this earlier. I have a lot of faith in James Gunn, and it seems like it would be right up his alley to make a Superman movie because he's all about heart, and he's good at an action scene too, right? But man, did the trailers not appeal to me at all? Like I'm almost seeing it like. Despite the trailers, I'm having to just be like, I don't know. James Gunn's great. I'm just going to see it. If it were just on the trailers and not the James Gunn, I would be catching this on the streaming.
It feels like there's 6 movies inside this one movie, and I don't know how they're going to make that work. But I guess we'll see.
We will see.
Yeah. So I know you're sad that they did release the Snyder Cut, but then they did not restore the Snyderverse, which is I know your newest hashtag.
That's right. I mean, we succeeded in getting the Snyder Cut, but we didn't succeed in completely. We were going to de-age Ben Affleck. We were going to
bring back Henry Cavill, of course.
Gonna bring back Henry Cavill. Yeah, we were gonna. Basically, it was going to be the salvation of the country and, by extension, the world.
Yeah.
And now that's not going to happen, and instead we have this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the method to world peace was actually letting Zack Snyder do whatever he wants, and it's really quite a shame that we've all just given up on this utopia of ours.
Yeah, if only there was something inspiring with a theme of hope that I could watch to sort of feel better about this situation.
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't think.
All right,
of
enough of that. Let's talk about Paul Thomas Anderson. Let's talk about There Will Be Blood.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've traveled over half our state to be here tonight. I couldn't get away sooner because my new well was coming in at Coyote Hills and I had to see about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if I say I'm an oil man, you will agree. I'm a family man. I run a family business. This is my son and my partner, H.W. Plainview.
You boys are a regular family business.
Now, you have a great chance here.
My son is a healer and a vessel for the Holy Spirit. He has a church.
And you will be cast up and thrust back to perdition!
I'm fixed like no other company in this field. I have a string of tools ready to put to work. That's why I can guarantee to start drilling and to put up the cash to back my word. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what the others promise to do, when it comes to the showdown, they won't be there.
Matt, what is this movie all about?
Brave industrialist Daniel Plainview successfully disposes of a con man and saves a community. Oh wait, sorry, that was from my notes. Let me read the IMDb summary that you put here. It says a story of family, religion, hatred, oil, and madness, focusing on a turn-of-the-century prospector in the early days of the business.
This movie was written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano. It is loosely based on the Upton Sinclair novel Oil. I think very loosely, very, very loosely. Loose enough that no one talks about that part of it, but not loose enough to where they still list Upton Sinclair as a writer on the official IMDb credits. So I don't know.
I read about this a bit. What it seems like is the Upton Sinclair book was a bit more satirical, and the protagonist of the book was actually the son of the oil baron character. Yeah. So, and it was more about, it had a lot more of Upton Sinclair's personal politics in it, rather than just sort of being a historical piece. It was almost like a political propaganda piece, as Upton Sinclair gonna Upton Sinclair.
Yeah. As opposed to this, which has no political opinions in it whatsoever.
No, it's just art, Scott, and art doesn't have anything to do with politics.
So Matt, people might not know this about you, but pretty big fan of oil. You are.
If you say I'm an oil man, I will agree.
So what? I know you had seen this movie before. We both have. This is probably, out of all the Paul Thomas Anderson movies, the one that you and I have probably seen the most times.
Yeah.
What did you think on this latest rewatch?
Gosh, interesting question. I don't know that I changed my opinion of it any. I've always loved this movie. I think if anything, it wasn't that I changed my opinion on the movie. It was that I sort of contextualized it in the framework of all the other Paul Thomas Anderson movies we've been watching, and just felt just that visceral, disorientation of like, how can the guy who made those movies, how can the guy who made Punch Drunk Love have made this movie? Like, it's just an astonishing artistic range to be able to tell such wildly different feeling stories. There are things they have in common. I think we'll actually have fun talking about the skill set that he brings to these things that I think does shine through, but it just feels like such a different thing tonally, the subject matter wise, the nature of the drama that it's telling. It really is a singular movie. It belongs on all of the lists that it's on. I love this movie. Did you feel any different?
No, I love this movie so much. I mean, this is like, yeah, this is one of those ones where, as you said, you see it kind of constantly pop up on the best of lists, both within the 21st century and beyond, right? And it's just one of those ones where it's like, oh yeah, this is, everyone estimated this thing correctly from day one. This movie was lauded by critics when it came out. It's only, I think, been bolstered in the 20 almost years since, where people have continually gone back and talked about it. It of course features one of the greatest actors turning in one of his greatest performances. Daniel Day-Lewis is incredible. Paul Dano, one of my favorite actors, does not get enough credit for how great he is. Like, I don't think he was nominated for this movie, and I feel like that's kind of ridiculous to me, because, like, of course Daniel Day-Lewis is excellent, but I think Dano is matching him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think especially toward the end of the movie when things get more sort of theatrical, they have to match each other's energy for that to work, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's this movie is enormous. It's huge in every single way. It's huge, like the way it's shot, the scope of it, the size of it, and the performances are huge, right? This is not a movie of subtlety at all. It's so interesting to me that this is a movie that starts with a 15-minute sequence in which nobody says a word, and like it is a silent 15 minutes of a movie, and then everything from there is just so kind of boisterous and loud from then on.
Yeah, it is almost bombastic. I think that, so one of the things I wanted to talk about is the subject matters, the dramatic stories that Anderson likes to tackle are so nuanced and psychologically complex. Like I agree with what you just said, that there's nothing subtle about, the performance, but there's a lot that's subtle about, the character and the what we're doing with this character. Like I feel like I've had a lot of trouble talking about the last couple of movies, definitely, and I think it's just like, he's hitting this spot where it's somewhere on the emotional landscape where stories often don't go, because it's just hard to. It's a contradictory state. It's an uncomfortable truth about our nature and our own self-contradictions. I think that was present in Punch Drunk Love. I think that was present even all the way back to Hard Eight, actually, where it's really hard to just do the simple, like, oh yeah, we're going to break this story down. We're going to say what the character's arc is. I'm going to tell you the character's arc in one sentence. It's like, no, that doesn't. I don't think that works for this movie. I mean, you can try, but I think you do an injustice to the movie if you, for example, paint Daniel Plainview as a villain who, goes mad, which is a popular thing that I see in a lot of reviews. I just think that's like a really uninteresting and kind of unfair thing to say about this story. It's so much more. It's so much bigger than that, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's true, but it's like 10% of the truth of this movie. Yeah,
right. I guess this was. I'm gonna just vent a little bit here, because I was reading the critical reactions to this movie and so forth. Partly because I looked at like the Rotten Tomato or whatever score, and it's like 91% or something, and I'm like, I can't imagine, 91%. Like, I remember getting a 91% on a math quiz and being like, that's like, I should get a better grade than that. And it's like, this is one of the best movies ever made. And it is a 91%. Anyway, and I'm like, so then I was like, who didn't like this movie? Who out there, what 9% of people out there just were like, nah, I'll pass. No, it was bad, actually. And a lot of I honestly felt like a lot of the criticisms were just like, oh, you didn't get it. Like you're rounding it off to be this simplistic thing about like a bad guy. It's like no, it's like, this is a very human character, again, just like our characters in all these movies we've just it's funny. I do feel like this movie has a lot of kinship with Punch Drunk Love, despite feeling so different in so many ways, because it's about this character where you keep being jerked back and forth on how you feel about him. I'm talking about the Adam Sandler character, where from scene to scene, you're like totally on his side and then totally terrified of him. That's kind of the same thing this movie is doing with Plainview. And I love that. And it just baffles me that there are people out there who don't think this was like a good movie. I'm still reeling, Scott. You got to help me with this.
I mean, he's just one of the most complicated characters like I've ever watched on screen. Like, just like, I think people rounding off the movie that way are like forgetting the entire middle part of the movie where he thinks this guy is his brother, and we're learning about what his life was like growing up, and like what he wanted, and how he feels about it all. And yes, like he's ultimately a monster, but like there's so much there about it. Like I like the tete-a-tete with Paul Dano's character, the push and pull that they're having throughout this entire movie is so fascinating, because they are in many ways exactly alike each other. And like they're both like willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. But they're both people that I think at times genuinely believe the things they're talking about. Like, I mean, Daniel Plainview does care greatly for this kid.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, so I paid a lot more attention to this through line on this viewing, where he loves this kid. He takes care of this kid. This kid is his son to him. And then his son loses his hearing, and he really is heartbroken about this. Like he genuinely is, although the movie does kind of play up the inhumanity of him sort of. Okay, let me.
He always picks the thing he's lusting after over anything else.
Right. So there's that element of him. It's not that he doesn't love his son, it's that he feels this conflict. And then when his son becomes injured, he feels horribly guilty, and he sort of wants to fix it, but he also sort of wants the kid to not be around, because I think I got a different reading on this viewing, which is like he knows how kind of inhuman he is, or just like full of hate he is. He knows this, and he doesn't see this as like a good quality that he possesses. He just knows that it's true about him. He knows that he hates everyone, and sees them all as just terrible, and I think hates himself. And the thing that have like his son enabled him to have some humanity and some, he wasn't pretending to love his son.
Yeah.
Then his son goes away, and he needs some kind of human anchor. And luckily his quote unquote brother shows up, and then that becomes his human anchor. And he really, like, that's part of the reason why he jumps into this, almost partnership with the character from The Mummy. So quickly is because he knows that he needs the anchor of
character from The Mummy. Benny. You're talking about Benny from The Mummy. Yeah, Benny, is how you're referring to. Yeah.
Benny from The Mummy. Yeah. And he needs this grounding. He knows that he needs this grounding. It's the only thing that keeps him sane, and probably keeps the terrible loneliness at bay. And then, of course, it's like confirmed to him that everyone is evil by the fact that it turns out that this guy was a con man trying to swindle him. And he's enraged, and he kills him. And it's like, yeah. And then after that point, he kind of tries to reconnect with his son, but his son is just so angry at him, and he ends up the way he ends up because there's just like nobody else that he has any kind of connection with whatsoever. And it's sad.
Well, because he always picks isolation and more, and like any attempt at partnership or like he eschews or rejects or pushes away or like holds at a distance. I mean, I think your read is right. I think the one thing I'll say to it is that the order of operations with his son and his brother is that his son gets hurt, then his brother shows up, then he sends away his son.
Yeah.
And I think there's a read that like the part of Daniel Plainview that is despicable is like, I don't need this boy anymore. I have this person now.
Yeah.
And then of course that blows up in his face. And so part of the guilt he's feeling is the I have abandoned my child scene, which is he's saying like to get what he wants ultimately, but like also Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the greatest actors of all time, and you can tell that like he means it's emotionally affecting him nonetheless.
Yeah.
That because he's acknowledging the truth of it.
Right. Well, go ahead.
So I mean, I just mean that like he looks like he's a guy that is fascinating and constantly makes the wrong decision always.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think it is oversimplifying to say just like this is just an asshole that goes insane and dies alone.
Yeah. I see a lot of that. I mean, I think a lot of, critical commentary is basically just people taking an opportunity to be like, I'm a good guy. I would never do something like that. And I'm just, I mean, if anything, I'm way more interested in the fact that like there are parts of this character that actually do speak to me. And maybe it's, not something you should talk about in polite company, but just like the ambition, the hunger is something that I can identify with. And it kind of helps to see like, yeah, well, this is kind of what happens when you give that hunger free rein and you put other things in service to it, I think, I think we all have a little misanthrope inside us too. So the idea of like, I look at other people and I see nothing I see nothing worth liking.
Yeah.
Is a sentiment that I'm sure we've all felt at some point in our lives. Like, and so there's so much about this character where he's just, he is this like hateful wretch by the end. And he's pretty hateful the whole time, but there's also something relatable about him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of just like a scared, insecure wreck of a human being. And like it shows and manifests in him just being nasty and mean to everyone around him. It's like he hates the world, and so the world hates him back, and then he gets his feelings hurt by the world hating him. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but that's just the way he is. And I mean, and I love the way in which he pings off of the Eli character. Like, this idea, we've taken these ideas of capital through oil and religion, these two ideas, and we put them in direct conflict with each other. And therefore we're making conclusions about both of them, essentially. Like, Eli is a con artist, essentially. That's another thing about the moment at the end of the movie where he gets Eli to just admit so readily that everything he did was bullshit. Like that, I think Eli believes that he is a mouthpiece of God that is spreading the good word to people, while also simultaneously being in this for power and money. Yeah. Right? I think that's true.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely saw him as being more of a con man, and the movie, I think you said this a second ago, the movie is really saying these two people are more similar than they are different.
Yes.
Like because it's not like it would be one thing if Eli were just like actually a good and holy man and was taking a sort of principled stand against Plainview's exploitative, behavior. But that's not what the movie does at all. The movie actually shows Plainview like giving a speech about how he's going to bolster the community with the wealth that comes from the oil, and then proceeding to actually do that. While meanwhile, you have the church basically being like Plainview clearly sees this church as like a parasitical con operation that's just making his life harder. And to Paul Dano's kid, to Eli, the people of the town are the oil. Like their faith is the oil that he's exploiting.
Yeah.
He is exploiting them for their money. He wants the congregation to grow because he lives on. I mean, I guess it's debatable whether what he really wants from them is their adulation or their money, but I think there's a good case that it's the money, because when we see him at the end of the movie, he has moved on to radio, and he's he made some money. He's sort of transformed himself into the what we now see as like the mega church televangelist preacher.
He's the prototype of that, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so we're not supposed to like anything about him either.
No.
So these are two men who suck, and they kind of suck in similar ways.
Yeah. Well, and I totally. And like Eli wants a piece from the second he sees it, right? Like even when he sees that Plainview is clearly trying to undervalue the land in the purchase deal with his father, from like he's talking about bolstering the community, and then like the first thing he says is and the first road will go to the church. Yes, the church is the most important building in town. And it is, I mean, I think you're right. Like it's such an interesting, there is a version of this movie that would say something completely different if we do see that Eli is like this upstanding preacher that is bolstering the community spiritually, that is providing all the things that Christianity can, in its best form, can provide to people: support, kindness, comfort. But we don't ever see that version of Eli. And indeed, like his spin-off, I feel like the third revelation or whatever, it's violent, it's cruel, and it's meant to like lead through fear, kind of.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's definitely we're pretty clear that it's not just like, he's a Presbyterian. It's like, no, he's created his own like basically heretical prophet cult where he's like, the prophet
exercising it's such bullshit. It's like Paul Dano does such a good job of the performative nature of him excising monsters from people. Is just like, just roll your eyes so hard at it.
Yeah. It's great. Their conflict is great. Like you said, the scenes where they're kind of having this duel, it's so interesting because it's not a duel over really anything material. I mean, okay, let me say that more correctly. They are jockeying for material power in the sense that Plainview wants to get the oil and he needs the pipeline. And so he's trying to maneuver the situation where he can get all of the things that he wants in a material sense.
Yeah.
But there's another level that's like the more interesting level where, yes, he cares about the pipeline, but then there's the level of ego and pride. And that's where the more interesting drama is happening, where Eli getting the concession from him to build the pipeline is all about humiliating him.
Yeah.
100%. It's just you slapped me and rubbed my face in the mud. Now I'm going to humiliate you, and then you get your pipeline, and then we're even. He didn't even like. That's the back and forth between them, is them both basically thinking of the other person. I hate you. You're a piece of shit. And then just like trying to enact their like, I'm going to bury you mentality at the other person. And of course, Plainview being the more monstrous, wins ultimately by murdering him literally. And it's just that's the part that I think, like, this is kind of what I meant earlier about the complexity of the story that we're telling, because it would be one thing, it would be a much inferior story if it were just like the sort of chess match between these two men over Like, who, is he going to get to build the pipeline? The much more interesting chess match is the ego and pride battle between them.
Yeah, it's about power. It's about which one of them gets to decide what happens and who is in control. I mean, and it's like, it's so funny because it's jockeying from the very beginning. Like the I love the moment where Eli comes and asks to do the blessing, and the way, like, just they size each other up almost immediately, and there's no like conversation or like moment of realization that they hate each other. It's just like they know each other immediately. And just like, there's no moment of like decision where you see Plainview decides, oh fuck no, I'm not gonna let this guy give a blessing at the well. Not only does he not let him get a blessing, but he rubs his face in not allowing the blessing by saying he's going to do it himself, and honoring his sister, not him. His sister, who is abused by her father. It's just like a fuck you, buddy. Like, it's like they're just saying fuck you to each other the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like Plainview doesn't give him the $5,000 he promised to the church, not because like he doesn't feel like giving up the money. It has nothing to do with the money. It's like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of this.
Exactly.
And if you ask me about it, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you.
Right. I almost wonder if, like, I don't know. I sometimes feel like maybe I'm being a little bit too apologetic for this character because I just enjoy him so much. But like, what I mean is, I feel like that was just a really bad day to ask him for that money, because his son the well had just exploded and his son had been injured. There's that whole part of the story toward the middle where he's just this cauldron of seething rage because of what's happened to his son. And like, another thing that happens pretty close to that is the guy from Standard Oil makes him an offer, and he tells him he's going to come into his home and slit his throat. And he's just,
it's Adam Sandler. Like, it's so like, they're both Sandler in Punch Drunk Love and Daniel Lewis here are characters that, like, at the drop of a hat will just go to the most violent option possible.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love that. I've never made that connection, but yeah, him saying that is like smashing the windows.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Yeah, that's excellent. So anyway, the point being is, like, I don't even know that I feel like Plainview might have paid him the money if he had just either waited for the oil to come in or not asked him on that particular day. But as it was just sort of adding insult to injury and pricking his ego in a moment.
Yeah, when he did it publicly, right? He came to him not like in private, but in front of everyone to like publicly make this declaration of, you owe me this money. And he's like, fuck you. You're not, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I guess like the only pushback I'd have for you on your depiction of Plainview so far is the idea that, he made this promise to the community that he was going to bolster this community and build everything up and it was going to be wonderful. And he did it. I guess, like, technically he brought money to the community, technically, but like, Daniel Plainview doesn't give a shit about this place. And the second the oil drives up, he's gone and the town dies. Right?
That's probably true. I don't, the movie doesn't really focus on this side of things too much, but it does show us a bit of like the construction that is happening around the town. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, perhaps you're right, but I don't know how we're meant to feel about that in context of this movie, because I mean, one thing you could say is like, well, before he came, it was literally a like goat farm where everyone in the whole situation was just like, yeah, this place sucks really bad. We can't grow any food. The only thing we can grow is goats because they eat the scanty weeds that grow between the rocks. So it's like, yes, the town will probably die after the oil dries up, but there's only a town because there was oil in the first place, really?
I mean, do we see like the promise of like, you're going to have enough more bread than you know what to do with, because we're going to like, we'll bring irrigation to the soil. Like, I don't know if we see that part of it either. Like, I agree, we don't see like he's not keeping his promise, but we don't see he's keeping his promise either.
Yeah, I agree that we don't see that very. I mean, yeah, that's fair enough.
I
guess,
see them both as hucksters, that they're going to do and say, both him and Paul Dano are going to do and say whatever they need to do and say to get people to agree to this. And then like it is so funny to me that he wants to, he doesn't want to pay oil prices for this land. So he posits himself as someone that just wants to buy this land for quail hunting. And then like, there is absolutely no shame to him that the second the sale is made, he's going to just turn around and be like, no, I'm an oil man. And I'm just I'm going to build a well on this land. Like there's no shame. There's no embarrassment. There's no, hey, wait a minute. You told me one thing and you lied. And it's like, yeah, so what? Deal with it.
Yeah.
He's just going to do whatever he needs to do. Like, that's like the idea of bringing HW around with him. And I agree with you. His relationship with his son is very complicated, and I don't want to simplify it away, but like the impetus for doing it is, I will sell better to families if I can posit my business as a family business. And so I'm going to bring my son around as a bargaining chip, essentially.
It's interesting because I've seen this statement made before, and it's like, this is what I mean about the movie requiring more subtlety in approaching the characters. I'm like, yes, that is one of the things going through his head when
I think it's a yes and. Like, I think it's both.
Right. Yes. So like, when he's standing up in front of the people in that scene toward the beginning, where he's able to be like, and my son in business sponsor HW, like that's it. Like he is aware of the convenient showmanship aspect of that, and he's like, yes, I'm so smart for having this fake son, but he also just definitely loves his son. Like we get that moment toward the end where it's after he has told his son that he's a bastard in a basket and basically ensured that his son would never come back, that he has, this like flashback to them just, having delightful father-son interactions when the boy was little, and he's just clearly heartbroken about this. And that's that in and of itself, the idea that he tells his son to get lost, and again, it's like the scene where you're throwing the rocks at the dog or whatever. It's like, it's cruel, and part of me almost reads it as like, Plainview knows that what's best for this kid is to get the hell away from this horrible, hateful old man, so he's helping that process along.
Yeah. I mean, like all of it. Like I think just it's every bit of all of that. Like he sees the value in him, and when he stops seeing the value in him, he gets rid of him. But also he loves him and feels terribly guilty for what happened to him, and doesn't know how to process those emotions.
Right.
Doesn't know how to deal with that at all. And like, I think you're just absolutely right that he says, like you said, he's a misanthrope, and yes, but like he hates himself almost as much as he hates everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is this self-hating man who perhaps in his warped brain thought, if I just amass enough money, enough power, maybe one day I'll like myself, and just never happens. I love talking to his quote unquote brother about the house he wanted, right? Like this dream he had as a kid of like, I'm going to own that house one day. I'm going to live in that house one day. I'm going to decorate it. And I see I see kids running on the lawn. I see this, like this version of Daniel Plainview had what I think we would see as the prototypical American dream, where I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to raise a family, I'm going to live this life of peace and happiness with my kids running around and animals and all this stuff. And then after that, what does he say? He says, I think seeing that house now would disgust me, right?
Yeah,
it's like he had this idea, he had this dream, and in the course of all his decisions now, that is like, he can't see it for himself at all. It's God, it's so fucking complicated.
Yeah, right. I just think you're totally right. Like he hates everyone, and he hates this fact about himself, but he doesn't have any ability to change it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he says at some point, he's like, no, I just want enough money to just be able to not have to interact with anyone ever again. I forget the exact wording of it, but it's literally what he does. I mean, he basically, once he makes this pipeline deal, I mean, I admit that the movie doesn't really actually tell us like what happens when and what the timeline is, which is fine because it really trades in ambiguity. But it kind of seems like once he made his money from this pipeline deal and he got the money from these wells, he kind of just retired. He it's not like he was in it for the love of the game. He actually did just want to make the money so he could get away from everyone and live in his house. And it's not that he's happy there. Like you just said, he's not happy in the house. He becomes an alcoholic, but at least he doesn't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's just really, it is just really sad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a really sad character.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like obviously oil is like the big thing in this movie, but like there's nothing specific about oil for Daniel Plainview.
Yeah,
it's like the movie starts with him in a silver mine mining for silver. Like he's just wants this material stuff that will bring him power and wealth, so he can fuck off and do whatever he wants.
Right.
And he picks, I mean, I think there is something like that. The common denominator there is he picks these resources found within the earth. He has to dig into the earth to find these things that have value to people. And it's like an incredibly dangerous profession, right? We get to see that multiple times. It's just like people die and get hurt constantly around this thing. The amount of time that Paul Thomas Anderson mixes blood and oil in the movie is like uncountable almost.
Totally. You mentioned the first 15 minutes and then I kind of glossed over responding to it, but I think that's one of the great interesting things the movie does is for the first 15 minutes, it just shows this character basically being, he's kind of showing a lot of the, I'm going to just, it's early July, so I'm just going to call them the American virtues of, of like steadfastness and hard work, and like risk taking, where he and like the independent spirit of the pioneer, where he's trying to stake this silver claim. He injures himself. He crawls an unknown distance through harsh rocky terrain with a shattered leg in order to secure his silver claim, and all of this is done silently, and you're just feeling like this guy is a badass. This guy is so cool. And then it's only sort of more gradually do we see the darker sides of his personality and the real streak of like hatefulness and true evil that I think he does have in him. Like as much of a Plainview apologist as I know I sound like, he does have like a real gleeful evil in him that he's aware of too. Like when he's tormenting Eli at the end, it's just he's become Satan basically.
The absolute pleasure and delight of it is pretty remarkable. Like I mean, like everyone talks about the milkshake speech, which is just Daniel Day-Lewis going like acting at 11. And it's great. I love it. But the part the part of it I really love is he makes Eli do this thing that Eli just does immediately of just like admitting he's a fraud, admitting none of it is real. And it's like, you can tell it's breaking Eli's heart to do this. This is what I mean about the contradiction of these characters, is that like, I think Eli both simultaneously knows that's true and also is like devastated that he would make the choice to just admit that at the same time. Like he hates himself as much as Plainview hates himself. But like, what I love about the Daniel Day-Lewis performance here is after all of that, after the big bolsterous loudness of him saying like I forget what the line is, that God is
I'm a false prophet and God is a superstition.
Thank you. Yeah. He makes him say that, and he makes him say louder and louder and louder and louder. And then that stops. And what Daniel says next is that well's dried up. He just like, it's so quiet and matter of fact. It's not like he says, and now to reveal the thing. It's just like, okay, I win.
Yeah.
Now the well's dried up. Haha.
Yeah.
Done. And like, it obviously it builds from there, right? It builds up to the milkshake moment, but the first reveal of that, the first reveal of the concept of drainage is just him very quietly and casually just being like, it's drainage. That land is dry. And I love it so much. It's so gleefully, I'm about to enjoy these next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he's just tormenting him. Yeah, it's. I mean, the twinkle in his eye that he gets when he's turning the screws on this guy who he just hates, and he knows this guy's life is in shambles because the stock market has crashed, and he's out of money, and he has all these debts presumably, and this guy has come to him as his last hope, and Plainview is just eating it up. This is just this is the best day of his life. He's just so happy that he gets to screw this guy over one last time.
It's like, he's been given this wonderful gift in this moment of I get the last laugh on this guy. He's a fucking asshole, but he's a delightful asshole. Like this is one thing we haven't said. We've gestured toward it, but like there's so many ways in which this is not a typical Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Like it's big, it's biblical. I guess the biblical part kind of matches Magnolia, but like it's epic in its size and scale and scope. But like it's also like fucking hilarious. It's really funny. Like it's funny. Like the humor's dark. It's certainly dark, but like this is the part that you see the PTA come through, is that like on top of everything else that this movie is, it's fun.
Yeah, the sort of joy in the awfulness of the situation type feeling, which again is one of this. I feel like PTA plays in these uncomfortable emotional spaces where people feel awkward admitting that they enjoy it. It's a thing that we come across sometimes in talking about Stephen King, where people will sometimes almost be hesitant to admit, like, yes, I am reading these books about all of this fucked up, horrible stuff happening because I like reading about fucked up, horrible stuff. Like they'll act like that's not the case, and it's like, no, obviously that's the case. Obviously, we're all little gremlins in our hearts, and we all love watching messed up shit happen to people, and just like it's fun. It's fun for us, and PTA does that with his characters so much.
Yeah, and it's like it's so obviously intentional, right? Like you cast Paul Dano in this role, and he is this sniveling, like conniving with this like gloating smirk on his face type of character, right? Like he's perfect for it. He's perfect. And it's like so Paul Thomas Anderson is like kind of playing a game with you. Like I said, like Plainview sucks. He's awful. He abandoned his child. Yes. But like you kind of enjoy when he fucks over this kid. Like when Plainview walks up to Eli and slaps the smirk off his face, there's a dark part of you that chuckles at that and says, good.
You're like, how dare you ask him for that money?
The money that he promised.
It's totally unreasonable and awful that Plainview is beating the shit out of him, and yet you're like, I totally. It's funny. I don't know how meta to get about this, but I honestly do feel like very often critics are uncomfortable with writing down in public, like, I enjoyed it when the character did the awful thing. but it's true. We all do. The movie is designed around this. The movie is designed around the fact that you enjoy watching Plainview be a son of a bitch, and and get away with it. It's there's something really alluring about like competence and confidence and ruthlessness and single-mindedness and all of these traits that Plainview has, even if it's shown sandwiched in between scenes of him just being, miserable and evil. It's the Walter White thing is what it is. It's like you, and again, it's as complicated as the Walter White thing, because the point of that sentence is not like, yeah, Walter White's awesome. It's like, no, you're meant to be torn constantly between noticing how awesome he is and noticing how miserable he is. That's it, and that's a really interesting place to be.
Yeah, I agree. It's fascinating, and I agree. There's like, especially, I think it's very easy for us to sit here 20 years almost after this movie came out and be like, people were afraid to say what they thought. But I think like if you're walking out of the theater and you haven't talked to anyone else about this movie, like there is a certain amount of bravery being a critic, being like the first one to write about this movie. Be like, you walk out of it and you publish your review or whatever, and you don't really know what anyone else thinks of it. And it's like, so am I sticking my neck out? Am I speaking glowingly about a thing that everyone else despised? Like, I'm not a critic in that way. Neither of us are really, but like there is, I think, this really interesting like peer pressure amongst the film community of like, you don't want to be at that much of odds with everyone else in your peer group.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's also sort of this is another thing I discovered while I was annoying myself with reading about what critics think about the movie. Is there were a lot of sentiments that were like, great film until that last bit in the bowling alley, and then it became overwrought. And
what?
Yeah, and a relatively common sentiment actually. In fact, I think Ebert I think Ebert basically said
Raj.
he took off like half a star because he was like, yeah, it was just a little overacted. And I'm like, that's the thing that's just the thing this movie is it's this elevated sort of like boisterous. It's capturing this almost like Western kind of burlesque vibe. Like I always think about when Plainview is yelling, he's walking down the he's walking toward him down the bowling alley, and he's yelling, I am the third revelation, and he's like, he's got this like, he's walking like bow-legged, and he's like has his arm out and he's like pointing at himself in this incredibly exaggerated way. And I just love that because it's like, yeah, he's gone completely unhinged. The scene has gone completely unhinged. This is what was under the surface between these two characters the whole time. This is just them removing their limiters, and this is the sensibility of this movie. This is just perfectly exactly how this movie is supposed to end. And thinking that it's like overacted, I'm just like, why do you even like movies?
Yeah, no, Roger Ebert didn't like movies. You're right.
Yeah, he didn't.
No. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think like there's, it is like sometimes you just have to be on the movie's wavelength, and sometimes you're just not. Like,
yeah,
in general, or even on like the day. Sometimes, like you said, Paul Dano picked a really bad day to ask Daniel Plainview for money. Sometimes this movie picks a really bad day to ask us for our opinion on it. That we're like, it is certainly over the top, right? Like, and Daniel Day-Lewis does this a lot, right? Where he goes for it.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't know if like Paul Thomas Anderson has ever had in any of his movies. Like all the central performances in these movies have been good. We talked great about Adam Sandler last week and about Mark Wahlberg and Tom Cruise. We called Magnolia Tom Cruise's best performance. And they're all going for it too, but like Daniel Day-Lewis has another gear.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it is a little disappointing that the reaction to that gear is like, oh, that was a bit much, wasn't it? It was like, well, yeah, but that's the point.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
supposed to be a
character.
bit much. That's Daniel Plainview.
And that's the movie. That's the movie that he's in.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's a period piece, and we're sort of inhabiting this fantasy realm. You know, the turn of the century is a kind of fantasy world to people who are living now in 2025, because we don't know what that was like. But we like to imagine that, along with the like wearing a waistcoat at all times and having a pocket watch and having a well manicured mustache, comes a kind of like larger than life personality. I think that's the word I was reaching for, is like, this guy is just supposed to be a larger than life, you know, oil tycoon character. And like the funny thing, I've always thought the funny thing about the expression larger than life is I've known so many actual human beings who are larger than life. Like I've worked with people where I can't, like, I find them exhausting to be around for long stretches because of how larger than life they are. It's like, yeah, you should be in a movie. Like, you're too much, you know. I'm sure you've known people like this, but it's just the idea that an actor is overacting when they are portraying a character like that. I'm just like, no, that's just that people are like that sometimes. I don't.
Well, here you go, Matt. Let me bear with me here for a sec. He's like oil. It's this incredibly powerful substance that can power things and lead to status and power and money, but you light it on fire, it's not going to stop burning.
There you go.
Like, that's Daniel Plainview. That he is like, I'm looking at it right now because I think I'm going to use it for our cover image, but it's this beautiful image of him sitting in a chair looking at the oil derrick like burning and the oil like shooting up from the ground and catching on fire like perpetually, right? This is going to go until the pressure drops, right?
Or they blow it up with the dynamite.
Well, they're about to blow it up with the dynamite, right? But it's like, that's like that image. There's two Daniel Plainviews there. There's the him, and then there's the plume of oil lit on fire.
Yeah,
and that's who he is.
Yeah, I love that. It's great.
I love this movie. I really do.
I do too. I think while, you know, some of the movies that we've talked about have been like Magnolia, for example, is a movie where it's like self-evidently genius, and we had a great conversation about it. I wasn't necessarily like riveted to the screen and sort of you just use the phrase on the movie's wavelength. Like, I wasn't necessarily vibing with the movie. I was appreciating it, but I wasn't necessarily like in the world of the movie. But every time I watch this movie, from the first to this viewing, I am totally synced with the movie. It's working on me dramatically. I'm enjoying it. I'm absorbed by it. I just, not only do I recognize it as genius, but I just love it, actually.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. Like, I mean, if I look back at the movies, like, I was surprised. I was surprised at how much like I felt distant from Magnolia, which is a movie I remember really, really being into and really loving. And of course, we had plenty of good things to say about it. I really did like Magnolia, but I felt a distance from it. And like, surprisingly, the same thing with Boogie Nights, which is really what I didn't expect. Cause like, I didn't think of that movie as fondly, but I thought it was just like energetic and like you're in with it. Like, the last two movies, ironically, like Punch Drunk Love is often considered like lower tier PTA, but I really vibed with that movie. And then this movie is just like, from the jump, I'm like, oh, this is something special. This is something that, you know, we were talking yesterday about Flanagan and The Haunting of Hill House, and it's just like this thing that happened where everyone came together and just like fucking blew it out of the water. And that's what this movie felt like to me from the first minute. There's an energy to it. There's a feeling you get while watching it that you're like, oh, I'm watching something big and important and complicated and special. This is art in its purest form.
Yeah. I think, I mean, a lot of it, I think, I don't want to oversimplify, and I don't think it's all this, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that these last two movies have been like focused on single characters, where we're really tightly following Plainview / Adam Sandler's character almost exclusively. I mean, not 100% exclusively, but pretty tightly. And we get to see, we live in their head. We see their reactions to things. We dwell in the more subtle moments with those characters. While I feel like Magnolia had so many different characters, it was hard to really feel. It's hard to like sort of become absorbed into like the drama of it, because there's just so many characters. And then back with Boogie Nights, you're right that it had a lot of energy, but I think that the energy almost came at the expense of the ability to get absorbed in it, because it's like you don't quite have the same thing as like the scene, where Plainview is like sitting at dinner with his son or whatever. Like there's not these sort of more subtle character scenes. Maybe, I don't know. I'm being very broad here, but I feel like in the same way that like everybody loves Gladiator because it's a movie where it's just like Russell Crowe is awesome and you're following along with Russell Crowe and he carries it. It's like these last two movies, they have the advantage of just movies where you're able to follow along with the central character, and that character is portrayed by an actor at the top of their game.
Yeah. I mean, I like Mark Wahlberg. We had plenty of great things to say about him in that movie. I think out of the leads of the 5 movies we've covered so far, probably the least talented actor. Is that fair?
Probably. Like, you mean Mark Wahlberg? Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I mean, I just think I don't want to be mean, because it's not like he does a bad job, but it's just like maybe I wouldn't be saying that complaint about not being able to ride along with his character if it had been a different actor who could convey the nuance of what's going on more clearly.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe ultimately what we're saying is we prefer the Paul Thomas Anderson character study to the Paul Thomas Anderson ensemble piece.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Which fortunately, we've got another one coming up after this movie, right?
Yeah,
The Master is next.
Yeah. God, what a run! Jeez.
Yeah. We mentioned at the beginning that this movie was nominated for Oscars. Daniel Day-Lewis won one of his Academy Awards for this movie. Also, this won Best Cinematography, which I think is really well deserved, because like this movie is gorgeous. One thing we can talk about is Paul Thomas Anderson is really staunch on filming on film. He doesn't like digital. He films on film. He was also very specific to, I read, the fire, like that those shots that we talked about earlier of the derrick burning. He was very specific that we need that to be fire.
Uh-huh.
I don't want digital fire. I want a real giant plume of fire as oil rushes out of the well. Just looks wonderful.
Yeah.
This movie is dirty and grimy and dreary, and it's the look of it is so good.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. That, by the way, just before we pass that moment, you mentioning that the fire, like, him running to save his son from the derrick after the explosion. I just count this in the column of like, yeah, he loves his son, because that derrick is going to explode in a fireball at any moment. Like he knows that. He's been in the business, so he's putting his life at risk to save his son, and that's just, I think, a point that's worth mentioning in the conversation of like, is he just using his son as a tool?
Yeah. I mean, I just think that, like, we talked about this on our other show, that like sometimes it's difficult to sit in the contradiction of things.
Yeah.
And I think this character exists at the nexus of like 30 different contradictions.
Yeah.
And I just think it's true simultaneously that Daniel Plainview uses HW as a bargaining chip and an icon and a sales tactic, and thinks of him that way, while also having a loving relationship with him. That maybe even the, like, none of this was in his plan. Like, obviously, like, his father dies in a horrific well accident, and he picks him up, and I'll look after this boy for a little while, and then I'm starting to feel a little attached, and like, and he's living in this contradiction himself, where he like tells himself, why am I keeping this boy around? Oh, it's for, it's to convince everyone that's a family business, and that's the story he's telling other people, but telling himself at the same time. But I just agree with you. You cannot look at the scene where HW is hurt and tell me that this guy doesn't have compassion for his child.
Yeah.
Like, does that mean he makes the right decision in the long term? No, of course not. Does he also like pawn the kid off as soon as he can? Yes, because he's a living contradiction.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love all that. First of all, that's perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think we got the scenes where he's, he's like asking after him. He's like, how's the room? How's the room in San Francisco? He's sharing it with another boy. Sharing it with another boy? Oh, but there's plenty of space. And he's like, he's like so concerned, but also, he doesn't call to have him sent back, obviously.
And when he does bring him back, when he does eventually bring him back, he brings him back because for himself, but also he bumps into the Standard Oil guy at dinner and like makes a point to him to show him, look, I'm taking care of my son. I brought my son. Like he can't help but be both things.
Yeah. 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 Just such a great study of human frailty in the person of a character who I think we can see ourselves in, and we don't like it. We don't like what we see.
Yeah, man. I think I'm going to get into being an oil baron. How do you feel about that?
That'd be great, man. I love oil.
You got any lots for sale?
I've got some lots for you.
Can I admit something to you?
Yes.
My friend of several decades and doctorate, doctor of petroleum engineering.
Go on. Yes.
I don't understand how an oil derrick works.
Well, the old kind that they were doing there was basically, I mean, we don't do it that way anymore, first of all, but they had basically that weight that was going up and down, and it was literally just smashing through the rock. And then they would actually have to have people go down there and scoop the debris that was smashing up into, baskets or buckets or whatever, and have it carted away, hopefully by like a mechanized system. But I don't know, at that point, maybe they had to do it by hand. So it was more like digging with a hammer than drilling. Nowadays we drill, and it's quite a different thing.
I mean, this is an important thing to say, that it took me several decades of my life to figure out that the oil is not like, there's not like a pool underground that just has oil in it, right?
I was
in the rock.
I was like 23 years old when I learned this, but yes, it's more like I've done this demo actually for my kids' school, where I bring in like a big glass container full of sand, and then it's just sand, and then I just like pour colored water into it, and of course all of the sand, all of the water, disappears into the sand, because it's like, well, there's void space between the grains, obviously, and like rock is basically, not all sand necessarily, but rock is all some kind of sedimentary rock that is all basically particles that have been deposited somewhere, and there's always going to be void space between them. So to answer your question, yes, the oil is just trapped in the void space between the rock, but between the sand grains or the silts grains or whatever it is, and there's a surprisingly high fraction of void space that the oil can inhabit. So correct, there are no giant caves of oil underwater. I also thought that for a long time, probably because of that Simpsons episode. with the where the oil's underneath the school,
Mhm.
and they sort of show it in a way that makes it look like a big cavern, and you're like, sure, that makes sense. Why wouldn't it be in a big cavern? But no, there's not a big cavern.
Why does oil go up? Is it just because they just like released a pocket of air pressure in the earth that's now forcing stuff up like a volcano does?
Well, so it doesn't always is one way to answer that.
Yeah, but like in the instance
yeah.
where like the well like blows up and is now shooting oil 20 feet into the air, why happen?
Yeah, so basically, there's a couple things going on here. So you've got the fact that just as you go deeper into the earth, the pressure gets really, really high because of the fact that you've got, for the same reason that the pressure is high as you go deeper underwater in the ocean, right? It's just like you've got more stuff over
There's
you.
more things above. Yeah, I like that you're explaining this to me like I'm a fifth grader. This is very. I'm. That was not sarcastic. I'm being serious.
Yeah, well, so there's more heavy stuff above you pushing down on you. I mean, it really is just that, both the rock and the fluid that's above you, and then you've got like there's kind of another thing going on here where the oil is really only going to accumulate if there's a kind of trap, as we call it. So in this case, so let's say, for example, there was an ocean here, and a bunch of debris and algae died and fell to the bottom of this ocean for millions of years. So you've got a lot of really good basically just rock there, and then the ocean dries up, or the sea dries up rather, and you have a salt layer, and then some more geology happens, and now you've got some more rock deposited on top of it. So now you've got this like salt interlayer, which this kind of thing happened in the United States, basically Texas, honestly, which is where we got a lot of drilling nowadays. But really kind of it happens all over the place. So you've got this salt layer. And so now when you get the oil accumulating underneath the salt layer, it can't actually go through the salt layer because the salt layer acts like a seal. So the pressure is able to build up to really high levels. And then there's other things happening where the rock then uplifts or pushes things down because of tectonic plates running into each other. So you can basically take pockets of things that are at different pressures, and then suddenly they're lifted way up due to the fact that the Rockies are being formed or whatever. It's incredibly dynamic and interesting. So anyway, point is, then you poke a hole in it, and now suddenly you've poked a hole in this incredibly high pressure space, and the oil just shoots out of it at incredibly high speed because relative to the surface, it is at a really, really high pressure.
Gotcha. Okay.
That was
very helpful.
More detailed than you asked for, but it is just complicated. From place to place, the reason why it shoots out of the ground may be different. That's why I added detail. Anyway.
Okay. It's very helpful. I'll just remember oil like volcano.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
Just like a volcano.
So in the sequence, and I promise we'll stop the podcast after this. I hope people are enjoying learning hour with Matt, though. In the sequence where, so they hit a gas pocket, which is what blows HW's eardrums out. And then you said he's rushing toward the thing because he knows it's about to explode. Why is it about to explode?
So it's not going to stop on its own. And little tiny sparks just due to friction are pretty common, especially.
So it doesn't light on fire because there was a cigarette or a gas lamp too close to the oil. It's just this is natural sparking.
There also might have been a cigarette or a gas lamp. I think in a situation like that, you just kind of assume somewhere nearby there's probably a spark, and even if there's not, a spark can be generated by friction buildup can actually just happen from fluid flowing. In fact, this is a known risk in a wellhead scenario, is you've just got water flowing through a pipe, which you think of as being a very sort of neutral thing, but actually water flowing through a pipe builds up static electrical charge on the pipe. For similar reasons to the fact that rubbing something on your hair builds up static charge. There's a surface interaction happening between the water and the pipe, and point being now you have a source of static, and any number of things could cause that to spark. And if there's if there's a satisfactory concentration of gas, then it's gonna explode. So you've got this gushing oil well. There's probably some element of a friction happening there too, which would cause a static charge. So that's also going to be a factor. But really, like you just don't know. It's like there's so many things that could cause it that you just assume that it'll happen. That's kind of what I meant.
All right, this is very helpful. Thank you. I understand now.
I'm glad.
It's also terrifying, just in general.
While we're doing Oil Corner, I will just say that the I drink your milkshake line was actually sort of like adapted from a speech that somebody gave about, and it was funny because they weren't actually talking about drainage. They were actually talking about horizontal drilling, where it's like in that context, when they say, I drink the milkshake, it's more like, you drill the well down into the earth, but then you can drill laterally, west, let's say, for the sake of argument, up to like 4 miles nowadays. You can drill an incredibly long horizontal well. And then that's kind of what they meant when they were saying we have a straw and the straw reaches all the way over there and then we drink your milkshake. And that's not what Daniel Plainview was doing. Daniel Plainview could not drill horizontal wells. He was talking about drainage, where the idea is it's like the oil just came from everywhere around the well, including under your property. That's more what he was saying. So
yeah, that made sense. Just like if you're drilling into a reservoir of oil, you're going to drill it all. That reservoir doesn't care about property lines.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I was just mentioning it because the original like historical drinking your milkshake reference was not talking about drainage. I'm just pedantically
we couldn't
pointing
do horizontal drilling back then.
No, we could not do horizontal drilling back then.
I guess that makes sense if drilling is, as you said, just a large hammer just being dropped into the ground until it breaks up rock. That makes sense where you couldn't do that horizontally.
Correct. And
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we all learned something important today.
I hope so.
Several important things. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that I got to show this side of myself.
And I think that is going to do it for us this week on the Doofcast. If you have any opinions on There Will Be Blood or Paul Thomas Anderson, please let us know. You can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on X at doofmedia, on Reddit, reddit.com/r/doofmedia, on Instagram at doofmedia. I think that's everywhere, I think.
That's right. If you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And if you like what we do and want to support us, please consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and join at any of the available levels. At the $10 level or month or more, you unlock all the bonus content, years of bonus content, including the show that Matt and I are currently doing right now, which is looking at MGM pluses from an episode at a time. We just released season 2, episode 2 of that show. We're doing it every couple weeks, a new episode. And we've got all of season 1 out there, and we're making our way through season 2. So check that out. Check out months and months and months of extra content as well. That's patreon.com/doofmedia.
That's right. Also, please consider giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
All right, folks, next week on the show, we either are going to be covering Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master, or if Matt gets an opportunity, and I should say if I get an opportunity to see the newest Superman movie this weekend, we will call a little audible and talk about Superman next week. But it'll be one of the two, so go watch them both.
Yeah, of course.
All right, folks, see you next week one way or the other. We're also going to be talking about a Superman or super drunk man.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.